Let me ask you something, and don't answer it casually. What would change in your life if quitting was no longer an option? Not unlikely, or I'll try my best, but genuinely impossible. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they leave a door open in their minds, a back door called just in case. What if in 2026 that door didn't exist? What if failure wasn't something you feared because it simply wasn't available to you as an option? No escape plan, no backup excuse, just one path forward, and you commit with everything you've got. Most people think change begins with motivation. They believe if they just feel inspired enough, everything will shift naturally. But motivation is fundamentally unreliable. It comes and goes unpredictably. It fades when you're tired, when things don't work as planned, when life pushes back against your efforts. Your nervous system doesn't organize itself around motivation. It organizes itself around certainty. And this is where almost everyone loses the year before it even truly begins. Your body is constantly asking one simple question: is this certain or is this a threat? If the outcome feels uncertain, your system hesitates. It holds back energy. It stays cautious. It actively looks for exits and escape routes. But when something feels certain, your entire physiology aligns behind it. Your breathing changes, your posture shifts, your focus sharpens dramatically. You stop negotiating with yourself about whether to act. Think about routine actions in your life. You don't debate brushing your teeth every morning. You don't wake up and say, let's see if I feel motivated to do this. It's certain, so there's no emotional drama surrounding it. The same principle applies to things you absolutely must do to survive. When certainty is present in your mind, action becomes automatic rather than something you need to force. Now, here's the problem that undermines most people's efforts. They walk into a new year saying things like, I hope this works, or I'm going to try, or let's see what happens. And the nervous system hears uncertainty in those words. It hears risk. It hears potential danger, and it responds by conserving energy instead of committing it fully. You don't rise to the level of your goals and aspirations. You fall to the level of your certainty. When you say failure is possible, even if you don't articulate it out loud, your body automatically prepares for that possibility. It builds hesitation into your actions. It keeps part of you safe and protected instead of having all of you committed to the outcome. And that's why people start strong in January and fade fast by March. Not because they're weak or lacking in character, but because their nervous system never believed the goal was non-negotiable from the beginning. Now imagine something different. Imagine waking up every day in 2026 with the same internal certainty you would have if your family's survival depended on the outcome. Not emotional pressure or toxic stress, but pure clarity. The kind of certainty that says this is happening, period. The only variable is how and when. When failure is removed as an option from your mental landscape, the mind stops asking, what if this doesn't work, and starts asking, what else can I try? That's not positive thinking or wishful fantasy. That's survival wiring activating. Resourcefulness is fundamentally a response to certainty rather than to motivation. Look back at any moment in your life where you showed up stronger than you thought possible. I guarantee you weren't calm and centered because you felt highly motivated. You were strong because something was absolutely certain. You had to figure it out. You had no choice in the matter. And suddenly energy appeared from nowhere. Creative ideas appeared, courage appeared, not because you went searching for these resources, but because certainty demanded them from you. This is why acting as if failure is impossible is not pretending or lying to yourself. It's conditioning. It's deliberately training your nervous system to operate from commitment instead of caution. Your body doesn't understand abstract concepts about the future. It understands concrete decisions made in the present. When you decide something is truly non-negotiable, your entire system reorganizes around that decision. Your standards rise automatically without conscious effort. You stop tolerating behaviors that don't match the outcome you've committed to. You don't need willpower to say no to distractions when the mission feels certain in your bones. And this is where people fundamentally misunderstand confidence. Confidence isn't something you wait around to feel before taking action. Confidence is the natural result of repeated certainty-based decisions. You move first despite fear. The feeling of confidence follows afterward. Right now, if you're completely honest with yourself, there are probably areas of your life where you're talented, capable, even passionate, but not fully certain about your commitment. You've left psychological space open, space to quit if things get too difficult, space to delay if you don't feel ready, space to explain why it didn't work out. And as long as that space exists exists in your mind, part of your energy leaks away into protecting yourself instead of building forward momentum. Acting as if failure is impossible doesn't mean everything will go perfectly or that you won't encounter obstacles. It means you've decided in advance that obstacles are simply part of the path, not a valid reason to stop moving. It means setbacks don't threaten your core identity. They're just feedback providing information. When certainty is genuinely present, rejection doesn't crush you emotionally. It refines your approach. When certainty is present, delays don't discourage you. They sharpen your patience. When certainty is present, hard days don't knock you out of the game. They remind you of who you decided to be. Most people wait for evidence of success before they're willing to commit fully, but certainty must come first. Evidence comes second. You don't need to know exactly how 2026 will unfold in detail. You need to know who you are when challenges arise, and that identity is built now, right now, through the decisions you make before results show up to validate you. Every time you choose to show up fully when it would be easier to pull back, you're training your nervous system to trust you. Every time you keep your word to yourself, even in small matters, certainty grows stronger. And certainty is addictive in the best possible way. Once you feel genuine certainty, you stop settling for half commitments and lukewarm effort. This is why standards matter more than goals in determining your actual outcomes. Goals are things you aim at hopefully. Standards are rules you live by consistently. When your standard becomes, I do not quit under any circumstances, your behavior adjusts without requiring constant force or willpower. You don't need to fight yourself endlessly. You've already decided. And here's the truth most people never hear clearly enough. Failure is rarely caused by one big catastrophic mistake. It's caused by thousands of small moments where certainty was missing, moments where you hesitated unnecessarily, moments where you negotiated with yourself, moments where you waited to feel ready before acting. The year 2026 does not require a dramatically better version of you with superhuman abilities. It requires a more decisive version. Decide right now that quitting is not available as an option. Decide that excuses don't get airtime in your internal dialogue. Decide that discomfort is no longer a signal to stop, but rather a signal that real growth is happening. And watch carefully what your nervous system does when it finally believes you're serious, because the moment failure becomes impossible in your mind, effort stops feeling like painful struggle. It becomes alignment with who you are. And when certainty takes over your psychology, everything else in your life has no choice but to follow that lead. Most people think their future is decided primarily by the goals they set at the beginning of a year. They write goals down in journals, visualize them during meditation, talk about them with friends, sometimes even get genuinely excited about them. And then months later, they're confused and disappointed about why nothing really changed in their circumstances. The truth is, goals are important for direction, but they're not what actually shape your life day to day. Standards do that work. A goal is something you want to achieve. A standard is something you live by regardless of how you feel. Goals are external targets you're aiming at. Standards are internal rules that govern your behavior. And the human nervous system responds far more powerfully to rules than to wishes or hopes. You can want something deeply, genuinely desire it with your whole heart and still not do what's required if your standards allow you to negotiate with yourself when things get difficult. Think about it honestly. You might have a goal to be physically fit, but if your standard says, I work out when I feel like it, that permissive standard will always win over the ambitious goal. You might have a goal to build something meaningful with your career, but if your standard says, I stop when it gets overwhelming or too complicated, that standard will quietly sabotage the goal every single time. Standards are what you tolerate from yourself. Standards are what you allow. Standards are what you expect from yourself when no one is watching your behavior. Here's the key distinction that changes everything. Goals are about outcomes you hope to achieve. Standards are about identity and who you are. You don't rise to your goals through inspiration. You fall to your standards through repetition. This is why two people can set identical goals and get completely different results. One person treats the goal as optional, something they'll pursue if conditions are favorable. The other treats the behaviors required to achieve it as absolutely non-negotiable. Same desire, fundamentally different standards driving their daily actions. In 2026, acting as if failure is impossible means you stop asking, what do I want, and start asking, what do I expect from myself no matter what happens. Expectation drives behavior far more consistently than desire ever can. Most people already have standards operating in their lives. They're just unconscious about them. They've set standards for how much effort is enough, how much discomfort is too much to bear, how long they'll persist before questioning themselves. And because those standards were often set during past experiences when they were in survival mode, they frequently don't match the future they now say they want. If your standards were built to keep you safe, they'll continue keeping you safe, but also small. Your life is actually shaped by the smallest actions you repeat when no one is watching your behavior. Every day you are voting for who you become, not with your intentions or your plans, but with your actual actions. And the vote is never neutral. Every action either reinforces the identity you want to build or strengthens the identity you're trying to leave behind. Identity doesn't respond to what you want abstractly. It responds to what you do consistently. You don't wake up one day and suddenly become disciplined. You become disciplined after hundreds of small moments where you chose action over comfort. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a tiny one, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who follows through. Every time you break a promise to yourself, even silently, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who negotiates and compromises. This is where most people quietly sabotage themselves without realizing it. They say, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll do it when things calm down, or this one time doesn't matter. And each time they say that, they teach their nervous system something crucial. They teach it that comfort outranks commitment, that emotion outranks decision. In 2026, if failure is truly impossible in your mind, then every day becomes one simple question. What does someone who doesn't quit do today? Not in theory or imagination, in concrete action. And then you do exactly that, even if it's imperfect. The moment you decide failure is impossible, when quitting disappears as an available option, resourcefulness takes over your psychology completely. You stop arguing with yourself endlessly. You stop needing external accountability from others. You stop relying on fluctuating mood. You act because that's simply what people like you do. Your daily actions are actively shaping what you believe is possible for yourself. When you act small, you think small. When you act with integrity, you think with confidence. One vote won't define you permanently, but enough of them absolutely will. So stop waiting for some breakthrough moment. Become the breakthrough through your actions. Win the small moments consistently. Stack the votes daily. Let your identity catch up to your behavior. Because when your daily actions consistently vote for the person who doesn't quit, failure doesn't just become unlikely, it becomes completely irrelevant.